For far too long, the effective management of the customer's experience has been considered a soft skill. But today, successful companies recognize that the customer experience is king, or from my perspective, is queen. Welcome to CX Unplugged. I'm Gabrielle Gonzalez, your host, and in this series, you will hear from me and other industry experts about how prioritizing the customer experience led to amazing outcomes. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CX Unplugged on the Multifamily Media Network. I'm Gabrielle Gonzalez, your host. I'm really happy to be here today, and I want to talk a little bit about customer experience, obviously, because that's what we talk about here. But I want to talk about it from the perspective of how does it differ from a term that a lot of us have been accustomed to over the years, customer service, and really what are those nuanced differences? Because I want to give you guys some real insight into what it is, who says it's important, why it's important, and hopefully give you guys some info and get your minds thinking about what you can do to really influence change and improvement to make that customer experience the key differentiator in your company. So let's get started. And again, thanks for joining me today. I'm glad to have you here. People are used to hearing they're used to hearing the term customer service. And really, it's only in the last 10 years or so that the term customer experience, which is CX, has emerged as an often used, often deployed alternative. Ron Kaufman, who is one of my faves, is a prolific thought leader and CX strategist. He's also the author of the book, Uplifting Service. He defines service as taking action that creates value for someone else. And that's really important to understand because customer service is a really important component of customer experience, but it's really just one aspect of it. John DeJulius, who is another one of my faves, as those of you who listen to me on the reg know, he's also the author of the book, The Customer Service Revolution. And he puts it like this. He says, converting service into an experience is when you take a mundane transaction and make it into a unique, memorable moment. I love that. So we continue to see this theme kind of carry through, right? James Gilmore, an adjunct lecturer at the Darden Graduate School of Business, where he teaches a course on the experience economy. He says that customer service is what you do and customer experience is how you do it. So a bunch of interesting takes because I thought, why not share other people's perspectives on this to really help you guys join in with me on this passion I have for customer experience and really understand from some of the great prolific thought leaders in this space what it really is. So customer experience is really more than just customer service. Customer experience refers to a customer's perception of their overall interactions with the company and its products. It represents the cumulative impact of multiple touch points over the course of their interaction with the company. So every touch point a customer ever has with your company, whether it's the moment they first hear about you in a blog post or on Google, or how easy or difficult it was for them to purchase from you, how well the product itself performed in context to their expectations, all the way through the time where they complain about you on X. All of that entire customer journey through all of those touch points, that's what represents the customer experience, the cumulative impact. So the thing that's also really important, I think, to remember in this space is that, everybody is right from their own perspective. So to really understand your CX effectiveness, right, at your company or your property, you really need to step into the shoes of your customer. You can't understand that from your own perspective. It's only through the eyes of your customer that you can truly understand how effective your customer experience efforts really are. Forbes describes it like this. Service is not about what you do. Service is your customer's experience from what you do. Customer experience isn't about how you think your processes or systems are performing, but it's about how your customers actually feel when they interact with those processes or systems or procedures. Your internal checklist, isn't really going to matter if the customer walks away frustrated. So it's really important to have a system in place to garner feedback from those customers. In fact, Bill Gates once famously said, "Unhappy customers are your best source of learning." And that's something I really couldn't agree with more, because if your unhappy customers are willing to tell you where you dropped the ball or where the system or the process really fell short of meeting their expectations, that's your golden opportunity to influence change in that space and improve that touch point for the next customer. There's another really important, really valuable statistic that's out there. And, I know that it remains relatively the same. It's changed very little over the last 20 years, which is, if one is upset or dissatisfied with your service, there's 20 others who are feeling the same way, but they just won't tell you. And if you don't know, you really can't affect change. So that's another really important piece, is to recognize that quiet customers don't equate to satisfied customers. And that's really, really important. So anyway, I love the Bill Gates piece about unhappy customers are your best source of learning, because they really, really are. But you've got to be confident enough and empathetic enough to engage in that conversation and really learn where your company or your processes or your systems have dropped the ball. So many companies use an NPS score to help them understand this. NPS is a good strategy because it normalizes scores across industries, but it's definitely not a fully robust way of garnering that customer feedback that can really help you affect change. So I want you to remember this. Until you see the customer experience from their eyes, from your customer's eyes, you're really not measuring customer experience. You're really not measuring customer experience until you really see it from their eyes. Hopefully now you understand what customer experience really is. The next question you might have is, well, who says it's important? People like me on my podcast, and, there's a few of us, we're really passionate about it. And maybe we say it's important, but is that enough? Not for some. For some of you, I know it isn't. I know it's enough, and I appreciate that. But let me give you some other data. 96% of respondents from a Fortune 500 companies indicated their leadership teams view CX as a key driver of business outcomes in 2025. So that's practically a unanimous response. All of them, all the leadership at Fortune 500 companies recognize CX as a key driver of business outcomes in 2025. Sam Walton once told his board that there's only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money somewhere else. Boom, right? If that wasn't a mic drop, that's a great point and a great perspective. Sir Richard Branson espoused that clients don't come first, employees do. If you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your clients. I think this is a particularly profound way to look at it, and also points to the notion of both internal and external customers, something that we have talked about on previous podcasts and will continue to talk about, because it really is a critical element of a robust CX strategy in your company. It can't be just about the customers. That old saying, the customer is always right. Some of you may not even be old enough to remember that, but I have disagreed with that and share Sir Richard Branson's perspective for a long time now, that if your employees, who are the ones delivering this service, if they feel like they're not being treated as well as the customer, that is a futile endeavor for you. They are not going to continue treating your customers like gold and platinum if they're being treated like, lost pennies, if you will. Sorry for the metaphor there. I like that. So anyway, So those are some people who really believe that it is important. These guys, these really successful folks and these successful companies, they recognize the importance of customer experience. So why? Why does it matter? Why does customer experience matter? Well, to put it plainly, customer-centric brands are more profitable. According to SuperOffice, businesses that prioritize customer experience are 60% more profitable than those lacking a customer-centric approach. According to a Harvard Business Review article, The Value of Customer X Quantified, customers who had the best past experiences spend 140% more than customers with the poorest experiences. So your customers will spend more. So I think it's really important to recognize that those customers, maybe they came to you for one thing, but they'll spend more. And the way that we all know that really makes sense in our budgets as we're looking at ancillary income opportunities and so on and so forth. Yes, will the resident pay the rent? That's great. We want to get them in the door to do that. But will they also rent a garage or, some of these other ancillary income opportunities? Will they have the wherewithal to pay pet fees and so on and so forth? And absorb the rent increases that inevitably will come. So it's really important to recognize that. Customer loyalty, it's another one. According to a recent study by Gartner, 79% of consumers are willing to change companies after a poor experience. So think about that. If a customer has had a bad experience, there's a lot of competition out there and they can go someplace else. And remember, we talked a little bit before about, how do we know what customers are really experiencing? A lot of them won't tell us. In fact, in multifamily, we know that, although there are some residents that can be really loud and proud with their complaints, most of our residents won't even tell us they're unhappy, even if we ask them, because they don't like that friction. They don't like that confrontationalism. They just want to say, oh, it's fine. And they'll just tender their intent to vacate. They'll tender their notice to move out. When they move out, they end up going to your competitor like a mile down the street, and you thought maybe they were moving in with a friend or moving closer to work. And lo and behold, they just moved right down the road. Well, guess what? It was because they weren't happy, but they didn't really want to tell you that. They didn't feel safe doing that. So they're just going to take their money and they're going to give it to your competitor. This is something we've got to be really careful about. And again, recognize that a focus on customer experience can help us avoid some of those pitfalls. So as we close today's episode, I want you to remember this. Customer experience is not just a buzzword. It's the heartbeat of our industry. In multifamily management, every interaction shapes the way that residents feel about where they live and ultimately about the people leading those communities. Customer experience matters because it's not only what sets us apart, but it's what sustains loyalty. It drives growth and it turns apartments into homes. So thanks for joining me today, and let's keep raising the bar on what great experience looks like in the multifamily industry. If you've got some great ideas or would like some tips, please feel free to DM me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to share more data and some of your stories with some of our other followers. That's it for me today on this quick episode of CX Unplugged on the Multifamily Media Network. Join me next time for more great info on the customer experience. Bye-bye.
CX Unplugged, where we have redefined who your customer really is. Join me next time to hear more missteps and masterful manifestations in the world of multifamily customer experience. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network.